I traveled through the 7 levels of the candy cane forest, past the sea of swirly, twirly gumdrops. Then I walked through the Lincoln.
There once were these 3 brave young sprite men. They were a bunch of turkeys, if you ask me. They wandered into our village with the greatest stories. Here they are. It's gonna be great. Like and subscribe.
Welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show. I'm Daniel. This is probably like the most malnourished werewolf I've ever seen. Who's ever seen Joe Biden at midnight?
And Blue, you still got that rash or what?
Sam's gonna buy the large tower, bro. For like $15. If it's 3 people, downtown.
No sausage here. It's Hyman.
It was that age where, like, you have responsibilities, but not as much, and you can have a lot of fun too. So then again, she also looks like that girl from that movie Chapin. I'll get a volunteer another time. Those anal glands can wait.
And they're waiting tonight. Hyman's with us. Big Blue is as well. I'm Daniel. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Mine wasn't so great. Steelers lost our quarterback. Lost to the worst team in the NFL. It wasn't that great for me, but I hope it was great for y'all. Hyman, how's your weekend going? Or how was your weekend? Anything crazy going on?
No, nothing interesting. Honestly, man. But it was good. It was just chill with my kids and stuff. So, yeah, good stuff.
Nice. What about you, Big Blue? Did you go grab some more sausage?
Yeah, I did.
What else about it?
So now, this time, it was we just went out for like an hour for a stroll downtown to see the lights. Yeah, so we had a few drinks and saw all the Christmas lights on the Riverwalk. Pretty nice. We went to some tiki bar, which I tasted one of the drinks my buddy was drinking, and I didn't like it. So everything had gingerbread or peppermint, so I decided to go with a coffee beer. So it was good.
That's good. I don't really. Is that like one of those what they call like stouts? They're like the darker beers.
Yeah.
Man.
Folgers Light.
Yeah. Folgers. There's a Starbucks Americano. Can't say the other ones that are gonna try to sue me. So. But what I heard is across the bridge over in Acuña, they built a Starbucks.
What? Is it really called Starbucks or is it like Starbacks?
No, it's Starbucks, but they add chamoy and tajin to everything.
What? What?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm about to go get my passport. Go try this.
The coffee's better over there, man. The coffee is better over there. I haven't tried it, but let's say one of my favorite coffees is from Mexico, from Chiapas.
Oh, really?
They grow it next to the green stuff, so it has a nice flavor.
Interesting.
Tequila, the green stuff. I don't know what y'all thinking about.
Don't look into my mind. When it comes to the the stuff being stronger out there, Big Blue, are you sure it was just coffee that was in there?
I hope so.
There it is. Jonathan in the house. How's it going, my man? Hope you're doing well. Me and him were playing some Fortnite last night. It was interesting. It was the first time I ever played online like that with like on a duo. We need to get you guys on there so you guys can get caught up. It's pretty cool, man. It's funny.
Yeah, and I really don't play games, but I did download it last night. and
Nice.
might get on today. Try it out.
Oh, stay tuned. Stay tuned. All righty, y'all. So let's get into today's show. Let's get into the topic. So there was a new document that was dropped today in the Idaho case against Bryan Kohberger for the quadruple homicides of Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. And basically this is referencing the IGG work that judge basically had forced the prosecution to drop off. He wanted to see it. He wanted to see what was in there. So I'm going to read through it real quick. It says, comes now the state of Idaho by and through Latah County prosecuting attorney, and hereby gives notice that the pursuant to this court, October 25th, 2023, order addressing IGG DNA and order in camera review, the state has submitted the IGG information in its possession, custody, or control to the court for an in-camera review dated this December 30th. 30th of November, 2023. And the next page is just a certificate of delivery. So they turned it in. They submitted the documents and the workup, whatever it is that they got from the FBI. And well, we'll just wait for what Judge says and puts in his review. Are you guys surprised that they submitted it? I think there's some people that are.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. Well, I know a lot of people that are looking through that got framed outlook. You know.
Yeah.
So those will probably be surprised, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was forced to turn in. We don't actually get to see what's on there, and neither does the defense team. The only person that gets to see what the FBI did is the judge, and then he'll decide if there's anything in there that should be given over to the defense. So let's just say there is or there isn't. I'm not sure how this is going to dismiss this case, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about the implications of the IGG. Let's talk about how it was used. Let's talk about how they plan on using it in court, if they plan on using it in court. We'll talk about the fruit of the poisonous tree and so on. So first and foremost, what is it? So to my knowledge, what had happened, or from my understanding, what had happened, let me put up a banner real quick before we get into it. Bring integrity back. I'm not sure. Yeah, Mods, if you can help her getting a link or getting help to the members page, that'd be helpful. All right, now that I got that, go ahead, Blue.
I said, open up your gifts. Sometimes the people give gifts as memberships, and you might get a free one. You never know.
Yeah, 100%. You never know. I know somebody who's gotten like 8 of them, but nobody's saying any names.
I will.
Quiet. All right, so let's continue. So what is it? How is it used? And, where did it come from? So basically, from my understanding, what happened was police arrive on scene November 13th, right? About noon. That's when the 911 call comes in. First responders, first officers on scene realize that, this is a homicide. So none of the paramedics are allowed in or any of that. Lead detective don't get there until 4. Right. He's the detective on staff. He goes through the house. He sees the knife sheath. I'm assuming after that point, that's when forensic team recovers the knife sheath and submits it into evidence. Reason being is, one, the lead detective is definitely going to want to see where the knife sheath was located, what position it was in, things like that, where the body was on top of it, and if there was anything else that was maybe perhaps blocking its view. I think there was a comforter as well. Well, all those things will have to have pictures taken and be documented heavily. And once the body is, I'm assuming, picked up and it's shown the rest of where the sheath is at, from what I understand and the way I would assume if I was there, and I would assume the way the investigation would have gone, these are the steps I would have thought that would have gone in place, right? That the forensic team would have then collected that sheath. They're not going to leave it there no longer than they need to, right? As soon as the detective sees it, clears it, they're collecting it. They're sealing it in a box. That box has this tape that goes around it, and signature goes around it quite a bit. That way, if something happens to it, or when it gets to the lab and they see it, if there's a break in the seal, they know that somebody messed with it, right? So,
yeah, so anybody can't tamper with it.
Right, exactly. So it gets to the state lab, and what happens is a DNA profile is located. Now, I don't know what kind of DNA it is. I know there's a big assumption out there that it's touch DNA, but I'm not sure if that's the case. I honestly don't know. All I do know is that it's single source DNA, which means it's not a mixture of whatever kind of DNA that it is, right? And so when you have a single source DNA, it's harder to get thrown out, right? Compared to when you have like a mixture. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Would it be crazy to think that it might be blood? I mean, it is a sheath. I've cut myself with my own blade before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like trying to maybe put it back in the sheath.
Yep.
It could be, but I don't know. From as far as we know, everybody thinks it's touch, so we're kind of assuming that too.
Maybe he was shaving his mustache and he cut himself. What a rookie mistake.
Yeah. Canadian True Crime Buff comes on with 5 gifted turkey memberships. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
So an STR profile is located on this single source DNA, and they enter it into CODIS. Now, once it's in CODIS, what it does is it compares to like convicted felons and persons currently serving in prison on crimes and things of that nature. And there's no match. There's no hit. Right. So while they're still investigating the case, they send out that STR lab to Othram. Now, Othram is a place that does a lot of different things. One is like looking for like old DNA or, small DNA that was in, like old cold cases and stuff like that, right? But one of the other things that they do is they build a family tree based off of the DNA, which is called the IGG. And they start working on it immediately. I'm probably thinking day one, after the day that this has occurred, or after they've put in the DNA into CODIS and it came back, no match. It was probably sent off already. It was probably some sort of communication, even as it was getting tested into CODIS. Well, anyways, so it gets sent out to Texas. And while that investigation is going on, my assumption is that the Moscow Police Department ran out of suspects, right? The state says that the FBI policy indicates that they cannot, that the FBI won't get involved in a case and do the IGG type of thing unless all suspects are, not that they won't get involved. They won't do the IGG portion of the investigation unless all suspects have been, or all techniques have been exhausted, right? And there's no more suspects. Mm-hmm. So once there's no suspects, or once the PD finds out that they don't have any, I think at that point is when they take over. Now, there's nothing saying where they took over at, right? There's nothing saying that if they went back to Idaho or Boise or Quantico in Virginia, but we know that they took over, right? And during their investigation of the IGG is when And what it basically is taking, I guess, the DNA, entering it into like one of these 23andMe. It's not 23andMe, but it's like 23andMe, where you put your DNA and it kind of points out who your ancestors are, who your cousins are, who you're related to. And they came back with some sort of matches, and they ended up tracing those matches to Bryan Kohberger. All right. So I think that's basically all of it in a nutshell. Now, the FBI never took Bryan Kohberger's DNA and tested it towards any of the S&P samples that they had, right? So there was no direct comparison.
Yeah,
which is what makes it inadmissible.
Yeah, they said look at this tree, but they didn't say who to look at.
Right, and I think that some folks are thinking that when somebody does this, that you're going to get a fifth cousin or a sixth cousin. I mean, shoot, what if Bryan Kohberger's sister, put her name or information in one of these databases, right? And it came back. Now, I think that wouldn't be a little bit too easy to trace back. You know what I'm saying? Because I think they'd probably find him in a day if that came out true. But, if it was somebody not that far off the tree.
That's a
right?
The more direct connection, right?
Right.
Or match.
Exactly. Now, the part that like confuses me about this is where's the issue with the defense? Like, I understand they want to see, the work, right? How they got to him or whatever, but this isn't being used against him. Right. So let's just say they looked at the work and they found out that FBI agent B is he entered it into Ancestry instead of GEDmatch. Right. He entered it into Ancestry on his own. He came up with the name Bryan Kohberger through illegal means. Right. He went completely rogue.
Yeah. Because you need a search warrant for that, right?
No, not necessarily. I mean,
certain ones, right?
Not for the IGG, no.
Oh,
and I don't think so. No, there isn't any. And so they end up, this rogue FBI agent goes out there and does this, right? Or let's just say this rogue FBI agent also started the process before Moscow ran out of suspects. Right. So let's just say that, this person says, all right, hey, when we run out of suspects, we're going to want you guys to do an IGG, based on your policy. And the guy, FBI agent B, is saying, nah, man, don't worry about it. I'm going to run it anyways right now. Right. He gets his name and they send it into, to the police department. And then the police department has to go make their investigation. Right. If that ends up coming out and being the case, do you guys know what's going to happen with the IGG or the evidence or the case in general?
They would probably try to throw out the evidence if it had to be a rogue incident.
Yeah. What about you, Hannah? What do you think?
I'm still stuck at how we'll frame Kohberger. That won't take too much, but in that case, yeah, I think that's what they wanted to make it seem like the process wasn't done right,
Right. But what the jury's not going to see any of this. You know what I mean? This is preliminary court stuff. There's no jury in here. So none of this is like coming out to the jury. This is just what's going to be used and what's not going to be used. So if all those things had occurred and the defense finds out, hey, this FBI agent violated policy. Let's go with the first one. He violated policy. and he started the IGG before they should have. That doesn't affect the case because that's FBI policy, not Idaho state law or United state law, right? That the FBI can't do this or can't do that. So what would end up happening is the FBI would be forced to reprimand said FBI officer, whether that's, a verbal warning to a suspension with pay, to a suspension without pay, all the way up to termination. Now, let's just say this person went a little bit further. Oh, also, the judge would say, because this FBI agent acted in this manner, all the information and evidence that was found through this is out, right? It's called food, anything connected to is fruit of the poisonous tree. The thing is, well, the IGG or the S, well, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So anything there would have been out, and they cannot use that information against their client, right? Well, Bryan Kohberger's team isn't using it against their client. I mean, the defense team, prosecution isn't using it against their client. And none of the stuff that they have gotten was based off of that IGG. So let's just say in that same example, a rogue FBI agent comes in, puts in the information into Ancestry, submits that paperwork over to the Moscow Police Department. They say, hey, here's a tip. Look at Bryan Kohberger. Now, because they didn't test DNA to DNA, cheek swab to, the SNP profile, it's not a guaranteed match. You can't use it in court. It's just kind of like we think it's this guy.
Yeah,
go look at him.
Showing the way, right?
Right. They still have to create a case against him.
Yeah.
Right. They still have to find evidence against him. Right. So they go out there and they pull trash out of his parents' house. Mm-hmm. Well, pulling trash out of somebody's house or on the yard when they discarded it is not illegal. And there's nothing illegal about comparing that DNA to the DNA that's on the sheath. Right? That's something completely separate from the family tree. So you can so that's why I say it's pointless. I mean, you can give them the work if you want. And even if they found something that a rogue FBI agent did something, that doesn't mean that the case gets thrown out, right? Another example would be, let's just say Big Blue, and this is probably going to be an easier example to understand. Let's say Big Blue is like this big drug pin, right? And he's got 8 guys that work for him, and those guys have crews, right? You're one of the guys that has a crew, Jaime. And let's just say that, I'm DEA or whatever, right? And I find out we got beef, bro. And I find out that Big Blue,
and the 7 dwarfs, guys, just a heads up.
That's the name of the crew.
That's the name of the
crew. So Big Blue's there. He's the drug pin. Jaime works for him, right? I tell these officers that are on the street, like, hey, we got some intel and we're working a case to bring down Big Blue. He's the biggest drug pin there is. And we know that one of the persons that's selling for him is Jaime. What I want you to do is, when we found out that Jaime is going to be traveling through town with some product, right? And so the DEA tells the officer, go pull over the vehicle that Jaime is driving in. And we're going to use that because we're going to find some drugs and we're going to use that to tie that back to Big Blue. So this officer goes, all right, let's do it. So he goes out, he finds Jaime's vehicle, right? He sees him driving, but he doesn't get any probable cause. Jaime's driving perfect. Doesn't run a stop sign, uses a signal light, pulls into a restaurant because he kind of sees that this person's following him. So he knows it's probably best to stop. He hadn't done anything wrong. But the officer decides to light him up at that point and pull him out of the car, find the drugs, but there was no probable cause. bad stop. So that stop gets thrown out. You know what I mean? And the DEA can't use that stop as an example or as evidence against Big Blue. But that doesn't mean that all the evidence against Big Blue is thrown out, or the other stops that other officers have made, with Big Blue's workers, and they've been able to put all this together, have made, right? The only stop that gets thrown out is Jaime's. Right now, that doesn't mean that I can't stop Jaime again the next week if he's out doing it again. You know what I mean?
I'm innocent, bro.
So it's kind of the same thing here with the IGG. You can, they pointed in one direction, and it's not usable in court.
Yeah.
Even if you find something illegal in there,
mm-hmm.
the only thing that can be thrown out from it is itself, which isn't being used. So you're going in a big circle.
Yeah, because even if they throw that out, there's still more evidence that has to be explained, right?
Well, I mean, throw it out. It doesn't make the difference that his DNA matched the DNA on the sheath.
Yeah, exactly. So if you throw it out, there's still a lot more evidence that they found pertaining to the crime.
Because if they throw away what the FBI did, they can still use the DNA because they didn't tamper with that part.
Exactly. They can use the DNA from the trash can, and they can use the DNA from the knife sheath, the STR, because the STR profile was created before the IGG. If you guys don't believe me, I put out a video not too long ago where at the end of the video, I show a conversation that I had on Truth and Transparency with Lena, where we were talking to the defense's witness, Gabriela Vargas. This is the defense's actual witness. And she stated, and I'll play it here in a little bit, I got to go find it. The STR profiles created first, and the STR profile and the IGG have nothing to do with each other. Nothing. There is nothing that the STR profile or what can be done to the STR profile. Oh, let me rephrase that. There's nothing that can be done to the IGG workup that will have the STR profile thrown out. Nothing. That's from her defense. His defense.
Yeah, I think it's just them trying to go through all the hurdles now. That way, at the end, when it gets time to court, they don't get no pushback or delays.
Well, I think they're going through the motion of this just to hear it out because it hasn't been used in Idaho, right? The IGG hasn't been used to find someone. So, they're going through this motion, but that doesn't mean that IGG hasn't been used in America and that there isn't precedent in other states. It has been, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. They don't use it. They don't even use it against their client. Once they get the name, they still have to build a case.
Yeah.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And this thing does not prove Bryan Kohberger did anything. The IGG does not prove it. So that's why they can't use it. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. The IGG can't prove it was Kohberger, but the STR DNA match between Kohberger and the actual DNA on the knife sheath can.
Didn't they use that? Didn't they use that for the Golden State Killer?
Yes, they did.
Right, they did. I've been watching some. Hold on, can y'all hear that? Freaking helicopter just passed by.
Is that a UFO?
I'm pretty sure it was, but I've been watching other
doors. There's a chase going on.
Yeah, I've been watching other YouTube channels, and some of them are hell bent about, using any technicality to get Bryan Kohberger off. You know, at least it seems like that. You know?
Yeah, because
There's
I mean,
dedicated to that.
No, I understand that. I mean, and I get what you're saying, because the argument for the IGG being thrown out isn't that there's somebody else that committed this crime. It's they did it wrong, so let's not use this evidence against him.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So it's not like, hey, the only way that this could be exculpatory is if the defense finds that evil twin brother that Bryan Kohberger may or may not have, maybe on his grandma's side, I don't know, but the evil twin brother, because what do we know? We know that the DNA pulled from the trash was the father of the killer, right? Because when they tested it, it had certain amount of markers that would indicate that this was a father, not a brother, because if it was a brother, they'd have more, right? Not a cousin, because if it was a cousin, it'd have less. So it was the father. And we know that, I think Bryan Kohberger is his only son that we know of. So unless there was one missing at birth, because we also know that his DNA matched as well. So unless there's a twin brother, identical twin brothers missing at birth, that's the only way the IGG could work for the defense.
No, unless the dad had two families.
Not even, dude. Nah, because he tested his DNA tested as 5 octillion times, right? It's his DNA. It's it's his DNA. You know, maybe he could argue, you know, that he got his DNA on there somehow, like some other way, right? Maybe shook hands with somebody or something, right? But I don't even think that they're arguing that it's not his DNA, outside of they're saying that they don't believe that Moscow Police Department had searched for all other Kohberger relatives that were in the area or could have been in the area on the night of November 13th.
Yeah.
That is what their argument is.
Yeah, because like I remember with who was it? Was it Dennis Rader? I think it was BTK, I believe. Also, I mean, he left a lot of DNA right at the crime scenes, but it never hit because obviously because of the technology back then. But even towards the early 2000s, it didn't hit because he wasn't part of the, coders or whatever, or the DNA wasn't in there. So what they did is that, well, first of all, he messed up by sending in a floppy disk, right? Got his name off of that, right? They pointed him to that direction, but they couldn't. That wasn't enough for them to run, like, to get us, I guess, a warrant for his DNA, right? So what happened is that they got a warrant to get a DNA from the daughter, and from that DNA, they came out that she's the daughter of the DNA that they found years back on the body. Yeah, that was enough for them to arrest him.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can use, familial DNA like that, like family DNA. There's nothing weird or shady or illegal or, it hasn't not been done before. You know what I mean? These are things that are common, in my opinion, especially when you have a case like this, right? When there's DNA involved and, you have, the IGG and you have an STR profile and you go to the guy's house, because from what we understand, they didn't get his name until December 19th. So December 19th, he was already in the Pocono Mountains. So people always ask, well, if all they needed to do is go get his trash, why didn't they go to his trash in his apartment? Why didn't they bring him in? Why didn't they go to him in Moscow? And that's because they didn't get his name till December 19th. You can't go back in time and be like, all right, we got his name now. It's Wednesday. Let me jump in my car, do 80 miles an hour, and I'll be there on Tuesday. It don't work that way.
They minority reported him.
Exactly. Maybe so, man. But you know, you can't go backwards in time. You can only do what you can do at that moment. And at that moment, he wasn't there. He was a clean freak. He cleaned everything out. And it'd been a few days at, you know, the only thing you would have access to, you wouldn't have access to the inside of his house, would be his doorknob and his front door, right? What else would you have access to? I mean, maybe if he had maybe a floor mat, you know, hope to find some hair or something in there that he's you know, fallen off.
Yeah. Not till they got a search warrant, but maybe his work office, this area.
But I think they went out there, man. They didn't find anything. There was no DNA there from the search warrant.
Yeah.
So even if they went out there, and also you don't want to tip him off there too. You know, you want to do it, you know, covertly. You don't want him to find out. This is a guy that may have taken the lives of 4 people, and the reason why you want to do it covertly is, one, you don't know what he's going to do in panic, if he's going to hurt somebody else or himself. Yeah. You know, justice is to still, you know, get this guy found guilty by his peers and have the justice system working the way it is supposed to. Right now, one other thing that I wanted to talk about was, you know, some folks are, and we've got a bunch of emails and text messages, or not text messages, emails and Facebook messages. And I guess this is the reason why we're also talking about the IGG, of these IGG bombshells that I guess have been going around. You know, one of them being that I think there was some infidelity involved with one of Kohberger's grandparents, which would had made the search more difficult. What do you guys think about that? We'll start off with you, Jaime. Do you think that? How do you think infidelity would take place, or to have a role where you're utilizing a family tree?
Well, I mean, it's kind of ballsy to even think that, you know, farther down your family tree, somebody was unfaithful, which is not. It's plausible, right? But I mean, it would just, if that was the case, I mean, obviously it's gonna throw off a couple of, you know, it's gonna make it harder. You know what I mean? It's gonna make it harder for them to find a certain aspect of the family to produce a family tree from them, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to think about it. It's crazy, but they might have had the milkman going by there. You know, you never know. The milkman goes by there,
right?
Grandma was wilding out a little bit. You know, she was having her fun.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like being like, damn, what's grandma or grandpa doing? They're swingers or something.
I don't know, man. I don't know how they are, but I mean, the 60s were a wild time. It could have been then. It could have been then.
They were visiting, you know, Myrtle Beach or Go-Go Beach.
Well, here's the thing. Kohberger was matched by his blood DNA, not by just solely a tree, right? Like, for instance, not everything is done by like, what do you call it? All right, we have one family member, right? There's going to be multiple family members that pop out on that situation. So, you know, if they have one, and, you know, I'm assuming if somebody who, you know, if this is true, right, that Kohberger's grandma was wilding out, and somebody found out about it now, you know, like so many years later, I'm assuming the FBI probably could figure that out as well. Don't you think, Blue?
I mean, it would say,
yeah,
yes, and I mean, of course, they would probably do their research, but dang.
No, what I'm saying is, like, what do you think, Jaime? Do you think that if let's just say it was you, right? If you could go out there and figure out that Kobeezy's grandma was going crazy back in, between 65 and 75, and was being, she was going crazy, right? Woodstock, whole 9 yards. Don't you think if you found this out so many years later that the FBI and their resources probably could figure it out too?
I'm sure they can. I mean, it'll probably take a little bit longer, but I'm sure they would. I don't see
why would it take longer if that's their specialty? I mean, that's what they do.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, no, but like, I guess it just comes down to it's easier to find. Back then, it was easier, right? Just to like fake documents and stuff like that. But now with DNA and all the technology, it's a little bit easier, especially if, like you said, if they have a whole, what's it called?
They got a few people.
Yeah, they have like a branch of just that they dedicate their whole life to this.
Yeah, like, do you think that they've ever come across somebody who's been, cheating and has a baby outside of wedlock or outside of marriage?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they probably have dealt with something like that before. You know what I mean? I think they've handled that. So this is another case of, what we don't know means it doesn't happen, right? So if we don't know that the police investigated this person or investigated that person, all right, we do know that they secretly took a cigarette butt from somebody. We don't know who. But because we don't know who, I hear that, one argument is, they didn't investigate anybody else. I'm like, how can you say they didn't investigate anybody else if they took a cigarette butt secretly from somebody else? Right?
Yeah.
Make it make sense.
See, and that's the thing is that the way I was trying to get to earlier was the only way they would be able to find that out is they would have to do a genealogy test between Kohberger's dad and his dad, to see if they matched. Because, of course, he's going to have the mom's DNA, the grandma. So, I mean, it's plausible. But sorry, Miss Kohberger, for throwing those jokes out there if you ever see this.
All right. Yeah. And who's to say it's Mrs. Kohberger? If it's his grandma, he's got another one. All right. And who's to say that the person that they matched up to Kohberger was on his, mom's side or dad's mom's side? I don't know which grandparent was wilding out there. Who's to say it wasn't from the other side of the family? That had nothing to do with that. All right. There's a lot of assumptions being made about, what person they, the FBI used to try to build a tree to connect to Kohberger. We don't know. And I get it that maybe perhaps Kohberger and his defense team, they don't know either, and they want to find that out. But do you know how you test the accuracy of the IGG?
Do tell.
You test it by testing the STR. If the STR matches, that means you did the IGG correct. If the STR doesn't match, that means that the person that they pointed to isn't the right person. And guess what happened in this case?
It was the right person.
It's the right person. I mean, that's how you do it. I don't get it. So let's see. Daniel, I thought a buccal swab was collected in a search warrant, not a blood sample. I don't know if I said anything about a blood sample, but yeah, he did get a warrant for his buccal swab. Yeah. So let's see. Oh, we got some stuff that starred.
Blue over there is going ham.
No, that's good. That's good. That's good. Keep them starred, because we'll talk about those towards the end. Thank you, Blue. All right. So the other thing I want to talk about is or that I've heard, and nothing against anybody. Like I said, we got a bunch of emails and text messages or Facebook messages and stuff about the IGG and how it's going to prove Kohberger's innocent. And we had a lot of videos coming from Truth and Transparency when it came to the IGG. And I've talked to Lena. In fact, we're going to do a show a little bit later. It's nothing but respect and whatnot. But this is from her live show. Let me pull this up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to talk about is basically the argument is that the prosecution, the state destroyed the FBI's IGG work or removed it, right? And they shouldn't have, right? They didn't have a right to do that. They didn't have a right to remove it from the database. Well, I don't have this paperwork, so I'm only going to play just a small clip of this, but I don't have this paperwork. She does, and she's just going to read it off there. And I want to kind of go through this and talk about this.
The bottom's too low.
Gotcha. I actually didn't have it on. Let me rewind that real quick.
These little footnotes for you. These requests should be made only after the suspect's known STR DNA profile has been manually paired to the forensic profile previously uploaded to CODIS, and it has been determined that the profiles match.
So what she said right there was, and this is referencing when you can get, or when the IGG work can be destroyed. Because one of the biggest claims is, if the state did everything right, why don't they give them the paperwork that the defense is asking for? Well, this is what the defense is asking for. They want the IGG paperwork, right? And so the state is saying we don't have it. It doesn't exist. The argument is saying that it does exist, and they just don't want to give it over, right? So what she just said right there is that the known STR profile matches the STR, which means once you've known who the STR profile belongs to, that's after you figured it out,
mm-hmm.
right? That's not before. That's after you've already figured it out, and there's a match between that person's profile and the profile that you used for the testing. In this scenario would be the DNA that's left on the sheath.
Yeah.
So when you would have went and obtained, this DNA.
And Lena right here, I think she's might be confusing the known STR aspect of it. And she's thinking that they needed to match the DNA off of the food or whatever it was, the trash that connected to Bryan Kohberger's dad. That's not the case. So that's what she's trying to say here. What they're saying is the known STR profile, which is once you find out who it is, and once it's no longer a mystery, right? Once you know who it is and you've tested it and that becomes a match, that's when you can destroy this
DNA to compare it to. You would have needed, how are you comparing anything from the sheath if you don't have the, if you went and got trash and this trash does not belong to Bryan Kohberger at all, because you don't even know, who's trash. I mean, whatever the fuck you think that you're going and getting, but it's telling you that these requests should be made only after the suspect's known STR DNA profile has been manually compared to the forensic profile previously uploaded to CODIS. And then the profile information and data should be removed only after the suspect's STR DNA profile has been manually compared to the forensic profile previously uploaded to CODIS, and it has been determined that the profiles match.
Boom. I think that's the boom that everybody should be waiting for. That once that profile matches, you can destroy it. Do you want to know why you can have it destroyed at that point? Can y'all take a guess?
I don't know, dear.
Because it doesn't matter no more. You have the STR profile match. It doesn't matter.
Everybody else's too. Though even the family tree or whatever, it doesn't matter because they're not part of the thing. You know, they already matched the DNA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they match the DNA. They no longer need the IGG. You can have it destroyed at that point because that's not usable in court, right? And let me rewind that just in case anybody, I guess, missed that last part. Again, I'm not poking fun or doing any of those things tonight. I don't have this paperwork, and so she does, and I'm just pulling out what she was reading.
This trash does not belong to Bryan Kohberger at all because you don't even know, who's trash. I mean, whatever the fuck you think that you're going and getting, but it's telling you that these requests should be made only after the suspect's known STR DNA profile has been manually compared to the forensic profile previously uploaded to CODIS.
Once the known STR profile has been compared to the previously uploaded STR profile that was entered into CODIS. Known. This is after they know who he is. This is when they have the buccal swab. This is when this got destroyed. This wasn't destroyed or removed from the database, before Bryan Kohberger's arrest. This wasn't before Bryan Kohberger's arraignment. This was after the buccal swab test positive that it's 100% or 99.91 octillion nines after that 0.8 or whatever percent him the guy. And then
then the profile information and data should be removed only after the suspect's STR DNA profile has been manually compared to the forensic profile previously uploaded to CODIS, and it has been determined that the profiles match.
I mean, it's clear as day there, in my opinion. So, just to kind of round it all up in a bucket. Oh, go ahead, Jaime.
Yeah, I understand where she's coming from, though. You know what I mean? Like, at the same time, I know she at one point said, you don't want, obviously nobody wants to be putting someone in that position if they're innocent, right?
Right.
But it can also go the other way, right? What about if you let go someone that has actually did this crime?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And like I said, the arguments when it comes to Kohberger aren't like, he's innocent because, there was, there's a video of a white Elantra and in Coeur d'Alene at 3:45, which would make it impossible for him to get to Moscow at 4, right? At 4:05 a.m. And it would make it impossible for him to have been the Elantra that was driving around. But there's no proof that it's him except him saying, hey, I was there, right? I was there in Coeur d'Alene. And the only thing they have is that, there's a video of a white Elantra that looks like his driving around. Well, his statement plus that corroborates each other. That's evidence of him being somewhere else. Yeah. Those type of, there's nothing like that. Like, there was a white car, even though it can't necessarily prove that it was his, something that can add to what he is saying. You know what I mean? But when it comes to this IGG stuff, to kind of just round it out, it's not being used against him. It wasn't used in his arrest warrant. There's nothing there about any IGG.
No.
The only thing that's in there that doesn't correlate with Bryan Kohberger's actual DNA is the DNA from Kohberger's dad from the trash pool.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know. And there's no connection between the two, right? I'm going to try to go find that actually real quick. I know where it's at.
I'm still like, when it comes down to like people, thinking that somebody is framing Kohberger, I was like, wouldn't they, like, if I was to frame someone for that specific crime, I would try to frame an ex-convict that has been known to, like domestic violence. It would have been easier because he'll already be in the system.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. I don't know why would they go out of their way to get someone that has nothing to do, like they don't have his DNA encoded. He doesn't have no arrest or record. They went and got a car that's similar to his, and he admitted to be driving around that time, and the pings and everything like that. I don't know why they would go through all that fake DNA, go through several agencies to go with the frame job. It's way too much.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, it is insane. Truth and Translucent comes in with a 249 super sticker. Thank you so much, Truth and Translucent. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you very much. And those are pounds, right? Pounds?
I think so.
Okay.
I got plenty of those. Not in money, but just in weight.
I think I got more than you, sir. Got you beat. When I get in the car, I was like, damn, I think I need new struts.
Right.
Boy rocks.
Last time I parked right next to a curb,
Europe.
and I sat down and like the door wouldn't open or close. I had to get out through like this little side, and then so the car can lift up.
All right, so I finally found it. Just so everybody, when it comes to the fruit of the poisonous tree, this is the conversation, and you can find this and the rest of this video on our videos list. Go check out our playlist, the whole 9 yards. Hit that like and subscribe button again while you're at it. But the title of this video, it's a 8-minute 46-second video that aired out a couple of weeks ago. It's titled 2 SMP Profiles, DNA to be Thrown Out, ? Bryan Kohberger. And I'm just going to play it for the last couple of seconds here.
Again, one more time for those in the back that refuse to hear.
And I will tell you this, when the STR profile is created, it is created on its own prior to IGG involvement. But the STR profile is already created. It has nothing to do with what I do.
Nothing to do with what she does.
I'm going to be the first one to say that there's way too many Dannys on the screen right now.
There could be. All right, let's go through some of these starred questions, and then we'll call it a show. Let's see.
I was like, I'm listening in the back. I don't know what he's talking to me for.
Melissa, send us an email, drunkturkeyshow@gmail.com.
Yeah.
My mama says 9 months. What did you ever do without me? We don't know. We love every one of you guys. We appreciate y'all for being here.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Curious, do you guys still live near each other? Somewhat, yeah.
Y'all two the same neighborhood.
Me and Blue live closer, but I mean, you could probably put two of our cities, our old cities, in between where me and Blue live. But it is, but it is almost on the same side of town. I mean, compared to where we used to live, it's pretty far apart. Let's see. How do we know his dad didn't conceive with a woman before marrying Bryan's mom? This woman then ran to Washington, where she has a family. When Bryan did his 23andMe, he found a brother. I mean, if Bryan found him, I think the FBI would too. There it is. So, anything else in the live chat that you guys saw that you guys want to comment or talk about before we call it out?
I'm good. I don't know about Blue. Blue's in charge of the chat. I have a full screen right now. So.
Yeah, I don't see anything that caught my attention yet. Sorry, I was drinking my soda because I was thirsty. I wasn't reading.
All righty. With that being said, I appreciate everybody here. We'll be back on Wednesday, and we leave you with this.
Again, one more time for those in the back that refuse to hear.
And I will tell you this, when the STR profile is created, it is created on its own prior to IGG involvement. But the STR profile is already created. It has nothing to do with